this Saturday morning, I realized that this is not a normal state, that on Saturday we go somewhere. I would rather stay home myself. So thank you again. And I would like to concentrate on teachers and teaching profession and tell you from the Polish perspective how it looks. But I will not talk all the time. I would like at some point to stop and let you ask questions, because this topic is so vast that you should direct me with your questions so that you learn more. I would like to start with two very general comments. I was listening very carefully yesterday to the conference, and as you realize, the outsider eye is always sharper because everything is new for me. So one comment is considering the education situation in Bulgaria as I see it. In many aspects, it's similar to the situation Poland was in about the year 2000. That means the basic question that has to be answered is: do you have a problem or not? Yes, this is the heart of the matter. I mean, we decided we have a serious problem then when we saw that a quarter of the youngsters at the age of 15 can't read. That was a huge problem for us, despite the wonderful feeling we had before that we had a decent, a good, quite good system of education. That was the deciding step to agree we have a problem. I am not convinced that we are at this stage yet. As when I was listening yesterday to different presentations and speeches made by people from inside Bulgaria, seemed to me that this question is still not considered as the main question. Of course, you can give one of the two answers. Yes, you can say, no, there's no problem, or we have a problem, we have to solve it. I rather heard voices to the first. So I heard someone saying, well, the system cannot be so bad because you are quite well educated. That's a quote from one of the presentations. Now again, the heart of the matter is who you mean by we. Yes, if we elite, that's perfect. But if you try to think we Bulgarians, that's not so good. As the same we had in Poland. I mean, exactly the same sorts of sentences, opinions, and so on. It depends whom you mean by we, and how you identify with the whole population, and how important you think it is that everybody has a decent education. And what decent education means, it doesn't mean that much, because to be sincere, the PISA requirements are not very, very complicated. I remember when I was in the year 2002 joining the expert group in OECD, which makes the PISA items for mathematics. I was shocked by the simplicity of the questions. And I said, well, are they so trivial? And then the other guys asked, are you sure your students can solve them? And then I stopped. Because it is not true that when you teach your students very complicated and advanced stuff, they can do the easy stuff as well. This is true only of the very talented people. But average people don't do this. In Poland, we have learned this lesson earlier. That's why I stopped when they taught me this. I mean, we were teaching in high school everybody differential calculus. I mean, how to study the behavior of the graph of a function when you use the derivatives and so on. And on the final exam for high school, we gave two problems. One was investigate how the function behaves by using calculus, and the other calculate the percentage of a certain number. The first was done, the second they failed. Yes, that was a shock. Yes, because the assumption that if you can do advanced stuff then of course you would be able to do the simpler stuff, is false. This is simply false. And moreover, you cannot expect everybody in your country to master differential calculus. I mean, there's not such a talented nation in the world that would be able for the whole to do it. But everybody should be able to calculate the percentage of some number. So, as I said, this PISA measure measures just this level of decency of education. And now if you say we have no problem, that means you accept a stupid assumption that your students are less talented than students in other countries, because they are not able to do it. That is definitely not true. I mean, there is the potential somewhere in the students, like the Polish students, which we have discovered and put to the surface, which can be done. You have only to try it. Or you can say, okay, let them be so low, let Bulgaria be down the ladder, I mean, we don't care. That's another option which some people. So this is one comment. Concerning really the issues that I see here, as I said, as a mirror of what we had in the year 2000, very similar discussions, very similar opinions which we try to ignore, or say even that PISA is not a valid measure, despite the fact that it is the most valid measure of education ever existing. I mean, this statistical tools used here are high-top technology, and it's also very strict with the sample. So in the year 2003, when Great Britain didn't measure the condition of the sample, it was dropped out from the measure. Great Britain, yes, it's a quite important country in Europe. Doesn't matter. They didn't meet the requirements. The sample was not big enough. That was enough from it away. So it's really a good measure, and it should be taken into account. And the second comment that I would like to make concerns a more general situation. It's a situation in many countries, not only Bulgaria, but it also came to me when I was listening yesterday. The things which I hear also in Poland and many other countries, namely when you talk about teachers' profession, you say, well, we should help to develop their professional skills. Here we should motivate them because some of them say, we are tired, we have no time, and so on and so on. In a sense, it's funny, because try to substitute the word teacher by the name of some other profession. Say that a train driver says he's tired, he doesn't want to increase his professional abilities. What would you do? What his boss would do in such a situation? Or if someone in another profession doesn't strive to improve, to show that he's better and better, what do you do then? What would they do with me as a university professor if I would stop doing research? It's very clear for me. I would be fired, simply like that. I wouldn't dare to say I'm tired, I have no time to do research. It's funny, but as I said, it's not. I'm not telling you something bad here. I mean, it's a general phenomenon. There's something in this profession so that we treat people working there as children, because we have to take care of them so that they behave nicely. In other professions, we just fire those guys who don't want to behave nicely. It's strange, but it's a phenomenon. I mean, it's some sociological phenomenon we should investigate, maybe. But of course, it has two effects. One effect is that these more talented teachers and those really devoted to the profession may feel like children which are guided and looked at so that they don't make a mistake, so they should improve in the way that someone else was thinking about. On the other hand, the weaker ones hide under this umbrella. If they are allowed to say we are tired and there are no consequences, then it's a safe situation. Yes, you don't have to improve. So it has really a lot of a lot of, it's an important issue. But I repeat, not only here, but also in Poland and other countries. It's maybe we are not behaving properly here. It's the teachers who, and there are a lot of such teachers who do really decent effort to teach as best as possible, should be free-handed. They should just go like this and be trusted that and when the effects come and we see that they teach well, kids know everything, are interested, enthusiastic, and so on, those should be praised and rewarded. Now, the other teachers should be, taken really, should be really looked at. There's one aspect of the Polish reform which has a lot to do with this approach, and the aspect which I didn't tell you about yesterday because I didn't have time, which really scared some teachers in Poland. Namely, I told you, maybe I remind you that after the system transformation, the Polish population, the Polish families decided the safe future for the kids is go through education, at the best to higher education if possible. Okay, so now so over 80% of youngsters leaving this basic part of education, that means elementary and lower secondary, choose the schools that would go to Matura, end with Matura, and then try to enter to higher education with these results they get. It results in a huge increase of kids in the schools, in the upper secondary schools, which would before be in the basic vocational. They are not so talented as before, so we had to restructure the teaching in upper secondary. I mean, you cannot hope anymore that every kid will master to large extent mathematics, physics, chemistry, biology, geography, history, civic knowledge, languages, and so on and so on. I mean, it can only be superficial, at the best. You need really to have a good brain to cover this to a large extent. So what were the choices? One choice would be to lower the requirements. That's no choice at all, because the labor market is cruel. I mean, it just takes the better. So if you don't provide people who would know very well those things which I mentioned, then the others would come and take the places, and the others live in other countries. We have an open job market. So what is the other choice or solution that we thought about? Well, we need people who know very well mathematics, we need people who know very well physics, we need people who know very well chemistry, but these need not be the same people. All right, so we decided to profile the students. It's, they enter the lower secondary has a common program. Now in the upper secondary, which is 3 years long, the first year is the pre-orientation year. They have the same program. But the last 2 years, they profile. So every student learns Polish, mathematics, foreign languages, but a part of that is up to the student's choice. I mean, the student has to choose 3 or 4 subjects that he or she learns a lot. That means there's a big program and many hours devoted to this. Now, to make this education balanced, we introduced 2 additional subjects. If the kid does not pick anything from science, so neither physics, nor biology, nor chemistry, nor geography, he or she has to take a subject which is called science, which combines all 4 and learns them for 2 years, so that to get the image of the universe in general terms. And similarly, or a mirror situation, someone doesn't pick anything from humanities, say the choices mathematics, physics, computer science, and chemistry. Then he or she has to take a course which is called History and Civic Sciences, when they learn for 2 years history and modern history by discussing certain problems. In the first year of upper secondary, they had just finished a chronological course of history once, and now, based on that knowledge, they can discuss now cross problems. So they take a problem and see through the ages how it was developed, for example. So this is the course. If they choose a deep course of history, they go again very deep through the whole history, because they have like 5 hours per week of history for 2 years. They can really do a lot. And this is a scary thing for teachers. Why? Because the kids have to choose the teacher. They don't choose the subject, really. I mean, that's why the first year is a common year, to know each other. I mean, then, because I was a director of the Institute of Mathematics at the Warsaw University for 9 years, and one day we had about 100 scientists working there. One day I gave a small question: why did you become a mathematician? 95% of answers were because I had a good teacher of mathematics at school. A good teacher, not I liked mathematics or something like that. I mean, you don't like this abstract thing. You like the way the teacher has presented it to you. So the teacher buys you to the subject. Now, some teachers can do this, some can't. Some are really discouraging. And those were really frightened, because what choice would they have? Say, a teacher of physics, if it's not inspiring enough, the kids would not choose physics in the school. They would go to other subjects. And all he can hope is to teach this science course, but he has a competition of the teacher of biology, chemistry, and so on. So there was a lot of nervousness among teachers, even though they understood the idea. And of course, they tried to find millions of arguments why it is wrong. For example, that a 16-year-old is too young to choose. Well, then I have shown them the curriculum of Poland, of Polish schools from the year 1935, where it was said a 16-year-old then is old enough to choose some subjects. Before the Second World War in Poland, it was already present. There were even profiled schools. You could go to an upper secondary school which is concentrated on exact sciences or on humanities or on applications and so on. So this argument cannot be valid. Now, I mean, this year, I mean, the next spring, these kids who made their choices will take the first matura. And the schools are quiet because what happened? The distribution among subjects is really quite even. It's not so that they all went to one subject. It's quite even though the better teachers won. I mean, they got a lot of candidates for their classes, whereas the weaker teachers, I mean, had to be satisfied with the classes in the first year or some other work. It's a very quiet situation now. It is where it's going. I am very anxious to see the results of this first matura, because they are really after big, deep courses. And we have modified the matura. It will be modified starting next year. Our matura consists of 2 parts. The first part is the obligatory part. It is the same for everybody. It's an exam in Polish language, mathematics, and a foreign language. They have a choice of one of 6 languages that they can pick from. Now, you have in each of those, I mean, in mathematics, it's only a written examination. In Polish and foreign language, there's a written and oral examination. There are 5 exams. If you fail one of them, you fail the matura. Then you cannot apply to any university by law. So this is really a test. Are you fit for study? Yes, but this is only the first part. The second part, till now, was completely voluntary. You can pick up to 6 additional subjects, including extended versions of Matura in Polish or mathematics or foreign language, and then show this result at higher education institution, which will value it twice as this basic exam. So the second part measures how well are you prepared for studying. So in the departments like mine, when we have 3 candidates to 1 place, I mean, this is really decisive. I mean, the last candidate admitted is about 80%, has an 80% result on this extended exam. So now, starting this next year, there's one change. Everybody is obliged to take 1 extended exam as well, at least 1. Before, there's only this obligatory part of 3 exams. Now we have a 4th one. The student can choose from any subject. Usually they will choose the subject that they took extended at school, the one of the 4 that they picked, but it's not required by law. They can pick anything else if they feel strong enough. Say they very well some second foreign language, for example, it's okay. They take this. These exams will be very serious, and then they come with this result to the university. The university gets about each candidate 2 pieces of information. One is well, just the result on the scale from 0 to 100, and the other, more important, is the location on the population. That means it says that the student was at the same level or better than, say, 75% of other students which would take the same test. So this is really a measure which is independent of the local difficulty of the test. You can compare also between the tests. You can safely add these 2 numbers if the student has taken 2 exams. Some departments require 2 or 3 exams. Say if you want to study medicine in Poland, you have to take biology, physics, and chemistry. So these 3 exams, I mean, are weighted, and then the outcome decides whether you are in or not. So as I said, this was probably the most scary part of the reform for teachers, but even though it looked scary, it's quiet. It moved smoothly. So you see, we had some risky elements as well. It's not that we have. Now there were many questions considering how did we prepare the teachers for the change. I mean, because I said, well, we switched the curriculum to the reasoning and argumentation, to critical thinking and stuff like that. These are very, very well-sounding slogans, of course, but then the teachers were not doing this in most cases before. Some were doing this, but some were not. So how do you do? We thought training them to do this is not a good idea, because again, you treat them like children, that they don't understand what it means. They need something else. They need the guidance in the form of the problems that the students should be able to solve. These are all graduates, the teachers, I mean, are graduates from higher education institutions. They have master's degrees. Why should I tell them how to prove theorems if they have masters in mathematics? They know this. They should only know which theorems the students should be able to prove. So we provided a massive information of what will be expected of the students in 3 years. Instead of organizing courses that someone will tell them what to do, how to teach. One of the basic reasons why we didn't this is very simple. Who would do that? Yes. If you want to make some massive training, you must have enough people who would be able to do the training. Now, some people in Poland say, okay, if you want to improve the teaching profession, just introduce a state exam for this profession. That will just close the road to this profession to those who are not fit. And then I always ask the question, who will be the examiner? Where are the wise guys who know how it should look like? And there are none. I mean, there are many people who claim they know, but when you ask them really, they are really either very narrow-minded, so they say they should be like me. Yes, makes no sense, because it's an art. This profession is an art. You need a diversity of approaches to students. depending what the students are, what their abilities are, and so on and so on. There's no golden way. There's no unique method of teaching well any subject. There are so many methods, even looking like contradicting each other, but still effective, depending whom you teach. It's up to intelligence of the teacher to decide which way I choose to get results with the students. So we decided that this main effort will be put on producing materials for the teachers rather than to telling them how they should behave. It's very important. There's one more reason why we decided not to do this retraining, because when you retrain someone, you really are saying to the person that you were not behaving right before. Yes. Now a teacher needs the integrity of the profession. I mean, if you want to teach someone something, you must be sure that you are right. I mean, if you hesitate about it, if you have doubts, or someone wakes doubts in you that you are professionally not a good one, your teaching will not be credible. I mean, when you stand in front of your class like I do now, you must look into the eyes and tell, I know the truth. It's simple, I will explain it to you. Otherwise, kids just don't believe you. This is psychology, it's basic psychology. So it is crucial that you don't undermine the teacher's integrity. You should help them to progress with providing proper tools which would direct the teaching in the common direction, rather than say, okay, you need retraining now. So, saying all that, of course, I must admit we have a system of supporting teachers. It's quite a large system, but I am very dissatisfied with its output right now. It's first of all, well, in Poland we have over 600,000 teachers. It's the money which goes on education is about 10 billion euro a year. It's about 1/10 of our national expenditure on anything. Now, by law, 1% of this money should go into professional improvement. By law. So this money so it's 100,000 euro per year has to be spent on improving teaching. Of course, when you have this sort of money, there are many willing to earn this money. Okay? So there are many institutions who claim they provide the support. When you took a careful look at what they do, they just offer courses they can offer. I mean, it's not that they ask teachers, what do you need? I mean, they seek lecturers and then provide courses. It comes sometimes to an absurd situation. I remember once I was the vice minister then, and I was visiting one of those institutions, and the boss of this institution was a lady, tried to show off and show me how nice courses they have prepared to improve teachers. And one of the courses was self-management. I mean, and I said, what is it? I mean, it's just that the teacher should approach himself like a factory. And so it's a clear example of alienation theory of Marx. But do you have courses which would improve teaching mathematics, chemistry, physics? No. We just have that. Why do you offer this then? We have a very good lecturer from some academy who came to us and said he can provide such a course. Makes no sense at all. It's a waste of money. Even though teachers will sign up. Why? Because they get the certificate. Yes, without any effort. Because, well, that's probably a lot of you will not share.
Opinion, but in my opinion, that management is a quasi-science, not a real science. I mean, you can really very easily, I mean, trick people that they know something, even though I mean the heart of the matter is somewhere else. So we have really to reform this, and I think the best way, but we are still on the track to finish this, is to give this money just to schools And the schools should buy the service for themselves, but not just to enhance teachers' knowledge, but to solve the problems they have. So if the principal identifies a problem, say the teaching of mathematics in this school is weaker than in other schools which are quite similar, then he should hire this help. Yes, some professional who would come and help to identify the true reasons for this and suggest which way it could be solved. The other thing which has definitely to be changed in these improving courses is to introduce strict measures of outcomes. Because the courses look like this. I mean, whatever the courses, even if it's devoted to teaching of a subject, which is the right thing. I mean, the teachers would come, say, for a week or two, listen to the lecturer, and then get a certificate. Now, I ask, where is the exam? How do you know they learned? No, they say, okay, they listen. Well, some say, okay, but I was teaching them how to teach, so how can I examine this? Why don't you go to their class and look, yes, to each of those, and look for a day or two, are they applying these methods that you have taught them? Are they successful or not? Or says, all right, but it's maybe too much work. Now, if we stop giving the certificates, that means that that will be an immediate improvement. Because those teachers who do not wish to learn will not enroll, first of all, because they will be scared that they will not pass the exam. The second thing is, I don't believe it's a good course if all passed. I mean, that means the requirements were below the expectations. If you have a course, some students should fail. I mean, not many, but some. Because then you know that you really required something. Well, these are the rules which we apply at universities for centuries now, and they work. So you cannot just treat now this or spend this money, which is a huge money, on pretending you are teaching something. So I tell you sincerely our problems. Yes, but I believe these are not only Polish problems. Maybe you encounter the same, but they have to be resolved for sure. Now, once we decentralize the financing of education, the opportunity came to diversify the salaries. So the better teachers should get better money. Unfortunately, we still have this law, which is called a teachers' chapter, originating in the communist days, which says that the salaries of teachers employed in state schools are fixed at certain level, which is changed year after year due to negotiations of a trade union with the government. That results in paying the same money to those who make effort and to those who don't pay effort, make effort. But because the money for salaries goes down to the self-government, if the self-government is local self-government is smart enough, they would give additional salaries, additional parts of salaries to the best teachers, just to keep them. Because good teachers form a market, and some schools try to buy a good teacher to their school, so he runs away from another school, sometimes between two quite distant cities, because in Poland is not that big, so you don't know where the good teachers really work. I mean, you see the outcomes of their work, I mean, where the good students come from, when there's a school where say 20 students take part in a mathematical Olympiad, for example. Yes, this is public information, so you immediately see that there are some good teachers which are worth considering hiring so that the school improves. So this process is going on, but still this law which forces this fixed minimal salary is destroying the whole system. Well, I understand that the trade union is a right of everybody, and that they have specific objectives. One of them being to fight for the highest salaries for the professionals who gathered in the profession. But I don't believe, to be sincere, that say, if a government decided, say, that overnight, that from tomorrow we pay the teachers twice, that the teaching would improve. Because this assumption would, this hides the following assumption, that some teachers know how to do it better but wait for a raise. It's not true. So you should rather pick the best and care that they don't run away from the profession, because those people usually are so intelligent that they can do any other job. Some of them, of course, love teaching so much they will never go away. But some of them can be tempted by some business positions or industry positions, which usually pay twice or three times as much as at school. I remember one of my PhD students coming to me, and he made a very good PhD in mathematics, and I offered him a position at the university. He well deserved it, and he comes to me very embarrassed and said, I got a proposal of a position in consulting. Now, what do they propose you? And he named a number which was thrice my salary as a professor. And then I said him the following, well, you will never earn this kind of money here. I will tell you how much I earn, you can compare. But you can be sure of three other things. Your boss will probably be less intelligent than you are, and you have to obey. You will have to do what he tells you to do, not what you want to research. And when you go abroad, you will be representative of your business, not of yourself. And after a year, he came back and said, you were right 3 times. I mean, that's exactly what happened. But he took the other job because he wanted to establish a family and so on and so on. But there's always a price. I mean, our salaries are low, relatively low to the other positions, but we get some other satisfactions we should also take into account. Also, teachers have these satisfactions, which are very hard to change into money. Yesterday evening, I had a meeting with the teachers of Teach for Bulgaria. Some of them probably are here. I told them a story which I remembered only because of one of the questions about that deals with the appreciation, social appreciation of the profession of a teacher. There is such a notion, and they say in this country it's highly appreciated, that country is not that appreciated. Now, it's a very complicated notion. And it's not most important what people will say when you make a query across the country and you ask them to list the professions. It's not the whole truth, because a teacher, say, in here would not care that much that she's appreciated in Varna. I mean, this doesn't make sense. I tell you a true story which I came across in Poland. When I was this Vice Minister of Education, of course, I was getting a lot of invitations to visit schools, because it's a honor for a school, presumably, to have a minister once. And of course, there was always some occasion, some anniversary or something. And because there are over 30,000 schools in Poland, you can imagine that those invitations would come every day. But once the invitation came from a small town in the south of Poland, there was the only upper secondary school in the city which had 70 years of anniversary. And usually I would not go there, but I knew that at this very school works a teacher of mathematics, a very shy guy who has quite good results. I mean, he's in a way a miracle maker, because he would take regular students that he couldn't select because that was the only school, and he would in 3 years, he would make them believe they are true mathematicians. Half of the class would take part in mathematical Olympiad. Some would be even the winners. So when I decided I should go there, so I went there. There was a big celebration, of course. I mean, this was the school that most of these high bosses in the city ended in their days, because this was the only one, and so on. So the city theater, the balcony, students sitting up there, down there the honorable graduates of the school. So at the proper moment, I went to the stage, said a few words you can imagine, like a vice minister should say on such occasion. And then when I finished, I said, I want to do one more thing. I want to invite to the stage the best teacher of mathematics in this school. And I invited this guy, I knew his name. Then the students sitting up there applauded with such force that I have never seen. I mean, it was really, they were really loving this teacher, and he didn't realize this. And these graduates, I mean, from the previous years, I mean, were disoriented at the first moment, what's going on, but they stood up and started clapping. The guy was crying on the stage. I mean, he was appreciated in the city like hell. I mean, he didn't know that, but he got it. This authority that he got in the city was a great thing. And who cares what is the position on the ranking of professions of a teacher profession in Poland once such things happen? If you are a good teacher, you are really appreciated and remembered by your students. And this is a memory and appreciation which you cannot overestimate, and no money can recompensate that. So you can go to become a boss at a bank, you will never get this kind of appreciation, even though you get a lot more money. So there are things that is very hard to measure with money, which come to the teacher's profession once it's good, it's well performed. So this is very, very important to remember, because maybe I am too idealistic, but I think that money is not all in life. You cannot buy anything or everything by money. There are some things that have to be earned otherwise. So as you see, the situation is not perfect here. It's the picture that you are getting from me doesn't look that as nice as on my presentation, which has shown a success. You see that it is this is a way we are moving along, but we are not scared to make changes. And I will repeat what I said yesterday. In education, there's no other way but to make a big step. If you make a small step, it will degenerate to the previous state. It's like moving a ball slightly away from the balance position. It comes back by tradition, by inertia. I mean, if you design by clearly what should happen, people who will then come to do it will try to make it as similar to the previous state as possible, just by nature, because they are accustomed to the old way. So you need really very direct and clear directions which way to go, so that the whole system moves. If you just try to argue and convince people that they should behave otherwise, but don't give precise instructions what to do and how to do it, it will end the old way. Sometimes tradition wins, even though you have a good idea. In the first reform, there was an idea that we should somehow blend the general education with the professional education somehow, so that we had in this Matura track, we had and we still have two kinds of schools. These are the general schools, which give you only general knowledge, and we have the schools that give you partly four-year schools, which give you partly general knowledge and partly the professional knowledge in some areas. So the idea was to create a third kind of schools, which would have a very strong content of general knowledge, but also some indications of professional knowledge. And this idea didn't win. I mean, these schools were created, they disappeared. Why? Because they were not clear enough what they mean. They were very clear two other models, the model of pure academia and the model of a good preparation for jobs. The third one was a mixture. A mixture does not win because of tradition. You are accustomed that these two models, the third model, did not fit to this tradition, it disappeared. You couldn't help. parents would not send kids to the third kind of school, that's it. And whatever you would try. So the model, so you must be prepared for this sort of surprises as well and accept them once they come, because this is the real life. Okay, I think I was talking enough. Maybe that is the time that you could ask me some questions. I have to put the earphones first. Okay, I am ready. Yes, please.
I'd like to put my questions in English.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
I completely agree with the statement that certificates...
We can share the microphone.
I completely agree with the statement that certificates shouldn't be the main driving force when we are not training. I hate this word. We are not training teachers. We are even not educating them. We share with them. But you said they are qualified well enough to prove theorems in front of their students. But there is a big problem with this, because, as you know, as we all know, everybody teaches in the style she or he had been taught. And how do you react to what the great Polya once said? One is preaching, everybody is sleeping. Such a performance is called teaching. So it's a very difficult thing to tell the teachers, you know how to prove theorems, so prove your theorem and everybody will be interested. There are geniuses who could share their passion for math and showing its beauty. But this was a different type of examining the teacher, the kids. Now that we are examining them mainly by tests, I don't think even the most gifted teacher is able to convey the beauty of mathematics if the success is measured by 1 out of 5 true questions.
If that was true, that would be a disaster, of course. But luckily, we don't examine by tests. The kids have to prove theorems on the exam. That's why when they fall asleep, when the teacher starts doing this, he says, wait, which university you want to get in after you finish? This one? Okay. They look on the part of the exam when you have proofs, so you better learn this. And the teacher is also motivated. He cannot put it away, say I don't remember how to do it. Because then his students will not be able to get a good result on the test. They will pass the we call it a test, because in measurement, in didactics, you call everything a test, but it's misleading for many people. People think that a test is a choice out of 4 or 5 answers. No, in pedagogical measurement, everything is a test, even though they have to solve problems and write the solutions. Like they say the PISA test. In PISA also, there are open questions, half of them is open, and they have to explain. So there's a good motivation. If we didn't change the exams, that would end up, as you say, and that would be just a superficial change. But something more happened, because, as you said, some teachers remember better, some worse. What happens? Now we have noticed increased collaboration between teachers, because some of them don't feel secure in the new areas that have been covered by this extended program. For example, I told you that years ago we checked that students can apply the derivatives to investigate the graph, but couldn't do percentage. That was 20 years earlier. Then we dropped this differential calculus from school because we saw it's absurd. But now, when the extended courses came and the kids pick it as a preferred subject, we put it again in. But the teachers were not teaching this for 20 years. So we see a strong collaboration among teachers and demand, which we get also at universities, to provide short courses which refresh this, which is good. A part of the fact that we have provided about 200 problems which illustrate what kind of problems they can expect at the Matura exam, not to be frightened. Okay, so they can teach the students just how to solve this kind of problems. Of course, none of these problems will appear directly on the exam. They are aware of this fact that the problems are only similar but not exactly the same. So you cannot memorize solutions. But this is moving on. But that's a very important point, that you must be very consequent in your change. I mean, if you design a change only for the cause that it will look more wise or better slogans, don't waste your time. You must come to the point of assessing. So there should be accountability involved in this. It's not enough to say we should improve the teaching. We should improve the learning outcomes of the teaching. That's the heart of the matter. We don't want that the children have wiser lessons in class. We want the children to be wiser at the end. So it is really a hard task, and it is. And if we didn't have this tool, these external examinations, there's no really other driving force which would force the teachers, as well as the students, to make more effort to get these additional abilities. We are lucky enough that our teachers really learned how to solve these problems themselves. That we can sure of, and it doesn't concern every country. I tell you the following story, which again a true story. Now, in Great Britain, there are very famous and old schools, one of them being the Dulwich College, which celebrated 500 years of existence a few years ago. And on that occasion, they have founded a few stipends from students from Eastern Europe, considered as an underdeveloped region, so that the students see how a good school could look like. Okay, so we have sent one of our good students. By we, I mean that's a social thing. I am involved for 30 years now in something which is called National Children's Fund. That's an organization which picks the most talented students in the country and provide them additional courses with university professors, but keeping them in the same schools they come from. We never remove them from there. It's, so they get answers to the problems that bother them. They try to solve open problems. So sometimes the problems that are not open for 100 years, but they don't know, and their teachers don't know. So they waste a lot of effort and try to do the best. So we have sent one of those guys there. He comes back, I talk to him, so how was it? He says, okay, he says, I improved English very much, he says. All right, that's a good start. And I said, what about mathematics? Because I know he was very good in mathematics and computer science. Well, he said in computer science it was okay. They put me on the British national team and we won the second place in the International Olympiad. All right, it's okay, but what about mathematics? Well, he said, you know, I didn't learn that much. I had one very unpleasant situation, namely a teacher gave a problem and I immediately saw that you can prove it by contradiction. So I went to the blackboard, I did the proof, and the teacher was feeling very sorry for me that I got a contradiction. He said, next time it will be better. Okay, so he apparently didn't know or forgot the method of proving. He was a pedagogue, not a mathematician, so he might have forgotten that they tried to teach him this method as well, which the student knew perfectly. I mean, this is a true event, which occurs quite often in the countries where teachers are prepared in the pedagogical way, and only on top of that, they get some knowledge of the subject. In Poland, it's vice versa. They are, first of all, have to be good professionals in the subject, and on top of that, they get some professional knowledge. In the situation when you have a very talented students, this way is the only way possible, because you must be able to answer any question the kid can ask, and if your knowledge is restricted, that's really a problem. So that's there are many circumstances, but maybe it's time for another question. Okay, so let's. You ask in Bulgarian or English? Okay, so please.
Благодаря. Вашето изложение ме насочи към въпроса, свързан с преструктурирането на видовете училища. is working. He is working.
I'm getting another one. Okay. Sorry.
Въпросите ми са свързани с преструктурирането на видовете училища. Вчера показахте, че сте имали малко общо образователни училища, професионални и техникуми. Сега, всъщност, основната част е свързана с голяма част училища, които са този вид 3 годишни с профил, нали така? А останалата част са техникуми. Но какво стана с учителите, които преди това работеха в техникумите и професионалните училища? Висока ли социална цена платихте за това, че те напуснаха училищата първо? И другия ми въпрос е свързан с малките населени места, където при нас, примерно в България, има само едно училище и то не може дори да предостави обаче профили на учениците, примерно по физика, математика, история и така нататък, защото в него има много малко ученици. И не може да се направи бройката ученици в съответния профил. И децата искат профил, но всъщност са задължени да избират само определен профил. Благодаря.
Thank you very much. So the first question is what did we do? I mean, as I said, and you rightly remember, I said that from the situation 50-50, that half of the students would go to this basic vocational, we came to the situation that only less than 20% goes there. And in the big cities, it's even more. Say in Warsaw, it's like 3 or 5% only. The rest is going to Matura. So what did we do with these teachers? Now, you see, it was not, that would be a problem if the government decided that it should be this way. I mean, so right away you have to fire thousands of teachers. These schools were dying by themselves. So it didn't happen on one night. So 1 year they have less candidates, next year even less, and so on. So these principals were dealing with this. They were keeping the teachers they needed and had to get rid of those who did not. The teacher contract ends on the 1st of September, the school year starts and has to be renewed. So they simply said, I mean, we don't have enough students that you should teach, that's it. So that was the way it was. So again, it was not a decision by any government or parliament that you should change tracks. That was the result of that was a decision of the society, and decision of society don't come on one night. They come with time, and the time has relaxed this. Now we hear more and more about a sort of rebirth of these types of schools, because services, the very simple services, are more and more expensive because we have less specialists. For example, as I heard in Warsaw, there's only one student learning how to repair watches. Yeah, so it's then the prices go up. But that cycle happens in almost every country in the West, that you get more interest in higher education than the salaries in this basic education. After the basic education go up because you have less and less specialists. I used to go to Canada every year, and they tell me now this year, say, covering the roof of the house is twice as more expensive than 3 years ago. That means there are less specialists for that. There are less immigrants from Eastern Europe who can do that. But then the interest to get these qualifications grows. We did a lot to improve the system of basic vocational education. Maybe I should tell you a word about this, because we used the occasion of introducing this so-called European qualification framework, and decided that schools, basic vocational schools, who just are oriented to prepare students to perform one job, are condemned to vanishing, because preparing a person for a single job is no prospect at all at the labor market today. These jobs appear and vanish. Some jobs which seemed to be really really good jobs disappear. My mother all her life was a typist at the central statistical institution in Poland. This job completely disappeared once computers came. Yes, there are many other jobs that disappeared the same way. So what we did, we have split every profession into modules which identify single competencies or qualifications. It's professions quite naturally split into qualifications, and the schools are to provide the qualifications to students with the idea that a student, if need be, adds another qualification and can combine from the package of qualifications that he or she acquires during the education a very flexible set, so that other professions can be combined from it. And also with the idea that if such a person is touched by unemployment in the future, he or she will go to some school and get still another qualification and enhance the portfolio, so that another possibilities for jobs will appear. The more qualifications you get, the more jobs you can combine of them, and then you feel more secure on the labor market. So this is the change which is just now being implemented in basic vocational school, which is strongly supported by the businesses, I must say, because they see that it's easier to find a candidate for work once you talk about the qualifications of the persons rather than of the job that the person can do. Because the jobs can be even the same, the job of the same name has very many aspects and subspecialties that are can be identified. In Poland, we have the official list of professions in Poland is 1,500 positions long. So, whereas the qualifications, there are even more qualifications which sit across those. So, it happens quite often when you look at the qualification list that acquiring, say, 3-4 qualifications gives you access to 15 different professions, which is a good thing, and students appreciate that, and that's why the interest in this kind of schooling is growing. And also, you should remember that that does not close the road to higher education, because you can, once you finish your basic vocational and are still willing to learn, because there is no cheating on the way, you can take a 2-year school which leads you to a matura, and then you can try to get into higher education. You can try. It's very important. Maybe I should tell you this, because I was very, very anxious coming here because of one event that happened, one thing that happened to me some months ago, which made me very, very careful to share opinions about someone else's education systems. Maybe I was at a meeting in Brussels. That was a meeting of countries of the Mediterranean Sea. That means there were European countries and the countries of North Africa. And there were university professors and teachers and so on. At some point, the president of the University of Suez came to the stage and said that he hates the massification of higher education, that he would prefer to have a 10% best students in the university. That would be it, and they don't know what to do. When I listened to him, I said, well, he doesn't know what he's saying. I mean, he's inviting the neocolonialism to Egypt, because in Europe we have 40% rate of higher education. If they don't provide that much in their countries, our people will move there and take the best positions, yes, and they will be the second, Egyptians will be the second kind of people on the job market. So once he finished, there was a break, I came up to him and asked him politely what did he mean by this. And then I learned something I could never imagine. And he didn't imagine that I don't know it. Namely, in Egypt there's a law which says when you finish your high school, you can make your wish where you want to study, and they have to admit you. They cannot look at your results. I mean, it's just fulfilling the wish. I mean, and that was what he was complaining about, because there were coming kids who could hardly read and had no other choice but to admit them. So if you don't know or don't have this small piece of information, you can think he was stupid, yes? So I was so scared coming here because I said, well, probably there are 100 of such situations here. I will be pretending to be a smart guy who knows how it should be. And then I get stuck on this. Then I was interested in this regulation. I thought, well, that's a singular situation. I mean, how can it be? And then I learned in Switzerland is a similar law. I mean, in Switzerland as well, if you wish to study somewhere, they have to admit you. Then on the first occasion I was in Zurich. I know very well the president of the Zurich Polytechnic, which is one of the most famous in the world, yes, ETH, and asked her, I mean, how do you deal with this law? I mean, you have to admit everybody. And she says, yeah, you're right, but we have the problem only in the first semester, because then the foreign students really draw the level of requirements, and our students who do not fit to this level are dropped out, and that's it. So they keep the requirements, but they still have this regulation. So it's not that Egypt again is a country which has a stupid law. It comes by tradition, by custom, and you cannot change it. So probably in Bulgaria there are also such circumstances. I am above the time. I'm just closing. Sorry for not be careful enough with the watch. So in Bulgaria, probably there are also such situations which have to be taken into account and resolved in your own conditions. I will say by saying that I sincerely wish you all the best, resolving the problems that are in front of you. You can use our experience at your wish, of remembering all the time that you have your own country and you have to make your own decisions. And as I said yesterday, this is my motto. Now, if you want to if you need and want to make a change, you should know how the other people did it, not to follow them, but to know exactly why you didn't follow them. Thank you very much.